Intellectuals and educators. George Washington Carver was both. He lived 1864 to 1943. Again, pretty good life, right? Gotta love that mustache. Look at that picture. Look at that mustache. Born in Missouri as a slave. He was born as a slave, and yet he was an amazing, accomplished scientist. Moved to Kansas for school, but left after witnessing a lynching. Now, some of you guys have seen a lot of crazy stuff in your life. How many of you have seen something on the category of lynching? Imagine being any person, but imagine especially being a younger person and seeing a lynching. That'll make you want to move. That'll make you want to move, won't it? He was the first black student and professor at Iowa State. At Tuskegee, led a Bible study. So Carver was a Bible teacher. He didn't just discover 1 million uses for the peanut. Obviously, I'm exaggerating. But he also taught the Bible. He designed a mobile classroom designed to educate poor farmers. This dude could have taken his smarts and kind of been done and just kind of, got his money, whatever. This dude never forgot those who were less gifted and less fortunate than him. He cared about educating and training folks who had He taught poor farmers how to use the peanut. He taught them how to make a viable income off of this. And the thing is, because of this, he didn't just end up helping poor black farmers. He helped a lot of poor white farmers as well. This dude was an equal opportunity educator. He developed over 100 uses for the peanut. Right now, someone should look up how many uses of the peanut and all the things this dude figured out. It is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. Now, he also worked with sweet potatoes, soybeans. His promotion of alternative crops saved the South's depleted soil. They didn't really understand how to do things in regards to the soil, and they would deplete their soil and would produce poor crops. Carver saved the South, basically. He basically saved the South by introducing alternative crops, specifically these other ones I just mentioned. And what it did is it enabled them to not have the soil be depleted because they could alternate them. You know what I'm saying? All right, let me see here. I got, looks like Carm, you were on one today. And I'm loving it. Keep on. This is the way I like to work. I love to work where it's in community. Carver, in an era of very high racial polarization, you could say that again, his fame reached beyond the black community. He was widely recognized and praised in the white community for his many achievements and talents. Yeah, it was absolutely undeniable. Oakman says Carver is credited with inventing about 300 uses for the peanut. So, I don't know, you get different numbers. I mean, the dude is like legendary, right? Thank you, Misty, for reminding people you're the bomb. We got some dope people up in here. Now, let me tell you something real quick about Carver. I don't have all the details because I'm going to do this part off the top of my head. But there was a part where he had to testify at various times in his life. Not testify like he was in trouble, but to give accounts of things to important different committees in Washington, D.C., right? And when he was doing this, he was only allotted a certain amount of time to speak. But they gave him a lot more time and basically said, take all the time you want. And it's very interesting. He seemed to have a way of folksy charming people. But he told a story in another instance in the speech he gave where he said something like this. He talked to God and said, God, like, tell me the mystery of the universe. And he says, God, and I think he's doing this sort of in a euphemistic kind of way. Carver says, God said, no, that's too much for your little brain to handle, you know. And he says something like, well, what is the purpose of man here? Teach me the purpose of man. And he says, no, even that is too much for you. And he's like, okay, well, and then God's kind of like, basically like telling George Washington Carver, hey, try again, get smaller for your brain to be able to handle it. And he had this certain kind of humility that's very, very endearing. And then he says, all right, God, teach me the point of the peanut. Teach me why the peanut is here. God says, okay, that's still going to be too much for you, but I'll unlock that for you. I'll do that for you. And again, I'm paraphrasing, but this is a famous, awesome story that Carver relays. And again, I think he means it sort of euphemistic. And he says, and so that's what God did, and I've been doing that ever since. And you know what he called his laboratory? He called it, if I got my phraseology exactly correct, he called it God's little lab. And every time This is according to eyewitnesses, I guess. Every time before he would step into his laboratory, which he called God's little workshop. Maybe that's it, God's little workshop. It's one of the two. He would pray every time. This dude, man, we need more people like this guy. You know what I'm saying? These guys are so impressive. And I see you guys are finding more stuff about him. Carver developed approximately 300 products made from peanuts. These included flour, paste, so peanut flour, peanut paste, peanut insulation, peanut paper, peanut wallboard, peanut wood stains, peanut soap, peanut shaving cream, and peanut skin lotion. I read earlier today, peanut cream cheese. Dude's killing it. This dude's killing it. Carver believed that he could have both faith in God and science and integrated them into his life. That's true. Carver testified on many occasions that his faith in Jesus was the only mechanism by which he could effectively pursue and perform the art of science. That's true, and that's good. That's good. Elizabeth Oakman, Carver developed hundreds of products using the peanuts, sweet potatoes, and soybeans. Carver, until his death, the high pitch of his voice. That's funny. It's funny you found that, Carm. I was listening to a thing about him today earlier, and he was going up to give a speech. I think it was in front of some college or something, or some university. And when he began, everyone was like kind of startled because of how high-pitched and sort of shrieky, I guess, his voice was. And I guess it was a thing. It's funny you found that. I guess he had a real high-pitched voice that, would actually startle people.
So I simply use the chemical laboratory to find certain things that I'm looking for. A laboratory is simply a place where we tear things to pieces. Sometimes we can get them together again if we want to put them together, and sometimes we can't. But nevertheless, we can pull things to pieces and get the truth that we are searching for.
Carver, until his death, the high pitch of his voice startled all who met him, and he suffered from frequent chest congestions and loss of voice. There are some of the rumors that Carver was castrated. Yeah, I've heard about that. That's a rumor. I don't know the truth about that, but that is a rumor. I mean, you look it up. That it's tough, with some of these guys. You've got Banneker and Carver, and there's just some of the information you just don't know. You're saying there's a monument near you? Interesting. I'm just checking. You guys got great comments. Okay, now I'm going to look here real quick. I'm going to show you guys this little book. This is a book for children. It's a great book written by the founder of the Institute for Creation Research, ICR, someone whom I will always be grateful for because they helped get me through high school. You know what I'm saying? As far as dealing with evolution and creation, ICR. Henry Morris is the founder. He wrote this little booklet called Men of Science, Men of God. Great scientists who believe the Bible. And notice Carver's even on the cover, the portrait there of Carver. I'm just going to read the little thing about him. And I appreciate this little entry here. It's on page 81 of this book. George Washington Carver, 1864 to 1943, was the great black scientist who was considered the world's top authority on peanuts and sweet potatoes and their products. Born a slave, he worked his way through college in the North and then returned to the South, desiring to devote his life to improving the quality of Southern farmlands and the economic prosperity of his people. As a faculty member at the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, he turned down a number of much more lucrative offers, and that's true. He did. This dude is just a G. As the fame of his genius as an agricultural chemist, ooh, that's a good word, agricultural chemist, as his fame of his genius as an agricultural chemist spread, he developed over 300 products. So I guess I got a low number there from the peanut and over I didn't know this. And over 118 from the sweet potato. Wow. Carver was also a sincere and humble Christian, never hesitating to confess his faith in the God of the Bible and attributing all his success and ability to God. In 1939, he was awarded the Roosevelt Medal with the following citation, quote, "To a scientist humbly seeking the guidance of God and a liberator to men of the white race as well as the black," end quote. There's another quote of a little portrait of Carver there. But this dude's dope, man. And so, I see Mark Cleveland saying, hey, I didn't know he was a Christian. And that's the thing. Americans don't know history enough, and I'm not saying I do. Christians don't know church history enough. We don't know enough black history, and we don't know enough black church history to be sure. However, a lot of times when you do get black history, it's usually a secularized version of it. So I want you guys to keep a watch out for that. Praise God to learn about things relating to black history. I think that's important. It's a undersung aspect of American history and life. It needs to be known. But what I noticed in the 21st century is that black history is often sanitized of its Christianity. The people mentioned, their faith is very rarely plays a role. It's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Very rarely is it Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. You know what I'm saying? And it's same thing with Carver. You know, Christianity was a key part of his life, and you don't really hear about that. You know what I mean? And so we want to bring that out. We want to put a shine on those folks. Malcolm X is important and needs to be talked about. Obviously not because we agree with him. But those kinds of guys, I feel sometimes get a shine over some of the Christians simply because they weren't Christians, and I feel like people like them better. I don't know. Anyways, all right, let's see here. Wow, he traveled to India and discussed about nutrition with Gandhi. It's pretty bugged out, right? Street apologist.